So after everything Musk has seen in the past 2 years, he said, listen, we're going to create AI that makes work optional and ends money as a concept itself. Or I don't know, we're not in a good place. We're fucked. You've noticed everything is inflating. Everything is getting more expensive. It's becoming harder to just exist. 2020 comes and the bubble pops again. We have a new crisis. Money printing kicks off. 25% of all dollars ever are printed in that period. The debt crisis gets serious. But when Trump gets into power and gives Musk special ability to get involved with the government, Musk does not go to NASA. He beelines for the accounts, looks at the financials of the government. He's well aware that the sovereign debt crisis is the biggest problem in the world right now. This is as big as Mars to him. This is something to solve the chaos of our times. And the stakes are that high. People like Paul Tudor Jones, who predicted the 1987 crash, believes that next year, in 2026, there's going to be a blow-off top to the financial markets and a massive crash afterwards.
There will be a really, really bad end to it. And my guess is that I think all the ingredients are in place for some kind of a blow-off. Will it happen? Again, history rhymes a lot, so I would think some version of it is going to happen again.
Right. Now, why are such wealthy people saying this? Well, it's because of the sovereign debt crisis, which I'm sure you've heard of, but you've also felt. You've noticed everything is inflating. Everything is getting more expensive. It's becoming harder to just exist. Rents are going up, the price of food. You go into the store now and you spend $80 for a daily supply of various things. Things are starting to suck out there. There's a squeeze happening and everybody's feeling it. And the reason why this is happening is because all Western nations are not as productive as the amount of money that we are creating. If you look at modern monetary theory, the premise is that if you become productive, your GDP goes up, you can actually print as much money as you want as long as you don't go over your GDP. You can even take out massive debt and buy loads of stuff as long as you know in the future the productivity will come to pay it off. Now, to put this in simple terms, if you meet a bloke and he has $800,000 in credit card debt every single year, you might say that guy's insane. He's going to go broke. But if he's making $1 million a year, he's covered. He's running at 80% of his ratio of debt to how productive he is. And this is how Western countries have always ran. It's actually not bad financing. It's intelligent. Invest in the now with the promises that you can pay it off in the future. But the modern West has been abusing this mechanism. We have been trading on our promises of higher productivity in the future for decades at this point. At the end of World War II, most countries had enormous debts out, but they were only about 35% on average relevant to their GDP. So if they were all making $1 million a year, they were in about $300,000 of credit card debt. It's big, but it's manageable. Nowadays, the average debt to GDP ratio in the West across the board is 120% our GDP. So we're taking out credit card loans right now that are worth 1.2 million, but our GDP is only at 1 million. So we're at the point where somebody needs to come in and sit us down and say, your credit card debt is getting too big. You need to stop. Sell the Lambo. Give it up. The only time we ever had as much debt as we do now was during World War II, when all of these economies were focused on creating destructive armies. They came out of this and put all those factories to lifting up their GDPs. We are in this position where we have all this debt, but it has overwhelmed our peacetime productivity. When nobody is bombing us, when all the factories can fire on all cylinders all they want. We're not in a good position. But there's a reason why we're here, and it's happened only recently. Our elites decided to take out large loans to deal with significant crises that showed up in the last 20 years. The first was the 2008 financial crisis. The various people in banks giving out mortgages set up a lot of different scams, which led to the implosion of the housing market. The banks needed to be bailed out. What essentially happened was a restructuring of the financial system that managed to kick an awful lot of the bad behavior down the road so later generations would suffer from it. Basically, the idea is, let's not let the financial system collapse now, even though we ran this giant ruckus scam. Let's hold it together and bail it out. And hopefully, in the future, our productivity will grow so much, as it has done over the last 100 years, that we'll be able to pay off our bad behavior. This is the thinking of modern economics. This was kind of going all right. Things were doing all right. 2010s, there was a lot of money sloshing around, this type of thing. But then comes 2020. 2020 comes and the bubble pops again. We have a new crisis. Some people even say it might have been a controlled shutdown of the world economy in order to get ahead of this inevitable bubble pop. Who knows? But what we have arrived in is this situation where all of the economies get shut down. Money printing kicks off. 25% of all dollars ever are printed in that period. The debt crisis gets serious and deeper. So now we have all this printed money and everybody's in their house not making anything useful. So this screws up this ratio, which directly leads into the 2024 and 2025 problems of energy contraction. There is this scarcity of real resources and a pretty much fake economy on top of it. And because of these issues, it explodes into inflation, which has been the defining feature of Biden and now Trump's administrations, trying to manage the cost of living crisis. Now, many of the defining phenomenon of your life are directly downstream from this problem. The lower fertility in the Western populations, which leads to the need to get immigrants to keep the GDP up nice and high, because more people means more GDP means more numbers. But of course, houses are so expensive that families can't settle down, so the fertility crisis goes downwards because of this as well. The cost of living crunch means that you can have successful men making 120K a year, but they're still kind of broke in a very strange way. All of this leads to a breakdown in trust and a resentment towards the people managing these nations. This turns into political radicalization, hostility towards the establishment, and people trying to escape into things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to avoid the fake money that's getting shoved down their throats. But it's not like people in power are not aware of this. The issue is that it's a difficult problem to solve that will require significant pain either way. And one of the best case studies of this is looking at Elon Musk, somebody who had one of the best reputations in the world 10 years ago and torched it in order to tackle some of these problems head on. Think about how Musk was talking only 18 months ago. He was advocating for the Trump regime because they would allow him to be left alone to build rockets to go to Mars. His big hope was that he was going to shoot up into the sky and move mankind forward in this great way, and this was his grand project. But when Trump gets into power and gives Musk special ability to get involved with the government, Musk does not go to NASA. He beelines for the accounts. He goes to the IRS and he looks at the financials of the government. He's well aware that the sovereign debt crisis is the biggest problem in the world right now. He goes straight there and he does an audit. He finds all sorts of scams taking place, all sorts of money being wasted, and he says, hey, let's do this restructuring of the financial system so that we can manage the debt. The US regime pats him on the head and says, well, look, I hope you had fun, but we're not doing any of that. We're going to do the big, beautiful bill. We're going to take out more debt in order to pay off what we need to do. And you can go and, we'll call it a nice little art project that you did. Musk chimps out. He throws a tantrum. He says, listen, these people are all in league with Epstein. And then he runs out of the government and he doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. Now, what is his next move? Does he go back to rocket ships? No. After this episode, Elon Musk licks his wounds and then flicks his mind and goes all into artificial intelligence. He's focused on making the Grok the best AI out there, and he's focused on making Tesla create Optimus robots that automate labor. He's looking to AI as the Hail Mary that will save the day. Why? Because of mathematics. The problem is you have productivity, GDP, which is too low, and you've got debt, which is higher than this. Musk's idea is a simple one. If we can get GDP to become so productive using automated labor, we will be able to outpace the problem of money. But he's aware that money has been inflated so much, the debt situation is so crazy, that AI is going to have to become so productive that it literally outcompetes money entirely. This has led to him making some very interesting recent statements.
But AI and humanoid robots will actually eliminate poverty. And Tesla won't be the only one that makes them. I think Tesla will pioneer this, but there will be many other companies that make humanoid robots. But there is only basically one way to make everyone wealthy, and that is AI and robotics. If you say, like, in the long term, where will things end up? Long term, I don't know what long term is. Maybe it's 10, 20 years, something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional.
Optional.
Optional. So...
Yeah, everyone claps
We'll
for
take
that.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, in the same way, like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables. That will be what work is like, optional.
So after everything Musk has seen in the past 2 years, after being inside the literal government looking at the financials, he said, listen, if we're going to create AI that makes work optional and ends money as a concept itself, or I don't know, we're not in a good place. We're fucked. This is as big as Mars to him. This is something to solve the chaos of our times. And the stakes are that high because the cascade in debt does have to lead to a pop at some point. And everybody's well aware that the integrity of the American empire around the world is weakening. The Western control of the world, the dollar hegemony of the world is in a dangerous place. And if people's faith in the system pops, and people stop believing that the American regime can fulfill its promises and pay out what is necessary, we will see a massive contraction of wealth, a scarcity of resources like we haven't seen before, and that will probably lead to wars and a reshaping of the world like we saw between the period of 1914 to 1945. Now, the network of elites who run the American empire are well aware of this, and many of them have been predicting this for a long time coming. Take Henry Kissinger, who had been part of the American establishment for a long, long time. His last work was called Genesis, which was published this year, just after he died, and it discusses AI and the way it's going to trigger a populist reaction. He points out that the way things stand now, debt is going to eviscerate the normal people who don't own abundant amounts of assets. They're going to see their houses and their cash evaporate into nothing. And this is going to stimulate enormous populist energy, which is obviously what we've been seeing. What is the Hail Mary solution to that? Artificial intelligence, because it can create super productive machines which will balance this out and stop neo-communism rising up, stop National Socialism rising up and claiming that it wants to equalize this situation by ripping this elite out of their seat. But even if AI comes, it's still going to have lots of problems because people will say, well, why do you get to be the people that own AI? How are we going to distribute the AI resources? There's going to be this huge question around who gets to own the machines. This will be the new Marxist question about who gets to own the means of production, which will define our lives. And the single metric everybody should know that you can measure to predict social instability is inequality, the perception of them having more than us. Now, what is going to create the feeling of unjustified wealth than people who own assets in things like AI, who are having machines do all the work, who are destroying the environment to do it, and then becoming exorbitantly wealthy while all the plebs have their lives inflated out of existence and all their rents go up too much. This is going to create a powder keg for neo-communism. The US regime obviously listened to Kissinger because over the last couple of days, they announced the Genesis Project, named after Kissinger's book, which says that they're going to create the Manhattan Project for making artificial intelligence and saving the day. So all of this thinking in the elite has led to everybody putting all their bets on this AI question. NVIDIA right now is practically the biggest company in world history. It's bigger than most economies even in the world in the amount of wealth it generates. But it's still hinging on this promise that artificial intelligence will come and it will create this productivity revolution. So already artificial intelligence is here. Already there are great hopes that it is going to save us from serious woes. And the expectation is all of this will come to fruition within the next 36 months. So we are in for a surprise.